don't think we should do it that way.
Portland kept losing, and Wicks kept complaining.
From the line.
They forgot him. Even after Sidney Wicks became the NBA Rookie of the Year. That sentence should stop you. Rookie of the Year is not a small thing. It means a player stepped into the toughest league in the world and was better than every other newcomer. Sidney Wicks did that. He did it fast, and he did it in a way that made grown coaches change their game plans. He went on to make 4 straight All-Star teams. He was one of the most feared young forwards in basketball. Yet if you say his name today, most fans give you a blank look. Even fans who know the game well and can rattle off stars from that same era without any trouble. This is not a story about a player who wasted his talent. This is a story about a player whose talent got buried under bad timing, bad teams, and a body that broke down too soon. His path runs through a high school gym in Los Angeles, through a junior college season nobody remembers, through the greatest college dynasty ever built, and through a championship night against a giant almost 7 inches taller than him. It runs through losing seasons in Portland, a painful stretch in Boston, and knees that gave out long before his heart did. By the end, you will understand why he was forgotten, and why that forgetting was never fair. And as Sidney starts proving why he should never have been forgotten, use the hype feature and give this video some hype so more fans can discover his story today. Sidney Wicks grew up in Los Angeles, California. He went to Alexander Hamilton High School, and he was different from other kids his age right away. As a freshman, he was already good enough to start on the varsity team. By age 14, he was the starting center. Think about that, a 9th grader holding down the middle of the court against boys 3 and 4 years older. Coaches around the city noticed he earned all-city recognition from the Los Angeles City section, and he kept earning it year after year. In his junior season, in 1966, he had a game against Venice High School that people still talk about. He scored 47 points and grabbed 20 rebounds in a single night. That is not a good game. That is a takeover. By his senior year in the 1966 to 1967 season, he was averaging 7 points a game. Scouts across the country had him on their list of the best high school players in America. Everything pointed toward UCLA. That was the school Wicks wanted, and it was the school built for a talent like his. But there was a problem, and it had nothing to do with basketball. Wicks had academic gaps that kept him from enrolling directly at UCLA. This was not a scandal and not a failure of character. It was simply a wall he had to get over before he could walk onto that campus. Plenty of talented young players never find a way past a wall like that. Their basketball story simply ends there, in a gym nobody outside their city ever hears about. Wicks did not let that happen. So instead of heading straight to Westwood, Wicks spent the 1967 to 1968 school year at Santa Monica College. He played for head coach Bobby Dye, and he treated that season like a proving ground rather than a detour. Santa Monica finished 19-8 in the Metropolitan Conference. Wicks averaged 26, 0 points and 19, 5 rebounds a game, numbers that would headline any junior college season in the country. He was named the conference's most valuable player. That year did 2 things for him. It sharpened his game against real competition, and it gave him the academic standing he needed to finally meet UCLA's requirements. It also taught him something about patience, since the fastest path to his dream school was not a straight line at all. When it ended, the door to UCLA was finally open, and Wicks walked through it with a full year of hard lessons already behind him. Walking into UCLA in 1968 meant walking into the most demanding program in college basketball. John Wooden ran that program, and Wooden's standards were legendary. Everything about the way UCLA practiced, traveled, and played was built around discipline and around putting the team ahead of any single player, no matter how talented that player might be. Players who joined that program had to earn their minutes every single day, regardless of how celebrated they had been in high school or junior college. The roster Wicks joined was already loaded with that kind of talent. During the 1968 to 1969 season, the team's biggest star was senior center Lou Alcindor, the player the world would later know as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Junior forward Curtis Rowe was also ahead of Wicks in the pecking order. So Wicks played a smaller role that year, coming off the bench instead of starting for the first time since he was a young teenager. Across 30 games, he averaged 5 points and 1 rebounds. It would be easy to call that season a disappointment for a player of his talent, but it was not wasted time. Wicks was learning inside a team that finished 29-1 and won the national championship. He was watching one of the greatest college players ever operate up close, every single day in practice, absorbing habits and lessons that a player cannot get any other way. A season like that plants a seed. It does not always show results right away, but it changes how a young player sees the game. Then Alcindor left for professional basketball and everything changed. UCLA had to answer a hard question. How do you replace one of the greatest college players who ever lived? For the 1969 to 1970 season, Wicks stepped into the starting lineup, and he stepped into it as a different player than the one who had come off the bench a year earlier. He and Curtis Rowe formed a front court that was mobile, physical, and hard to match up against, since both players could score inside and still run the floor like guards. Wicks led the entire team in scoring, averaging 6 points a game. He also led the team in rebounding, pulling down 9 boards a game. In the NCAA tournament semifinal against New Mexico State, he put up 22 points and 16 rebounds, a performance that showed he could carry a heavy load on the biggest nights of the year. He was no longer a role player learning from stars. He had become the star, and the rest of the country was about to find out just how good he really was. But the road to the championship game brought a problem that no amount of preparation could shrink. UCLA's opponent in the 1970 national title game was Jacksonville University, and Jacksonville had a center named Artis Gilmore who stood 7 feet 2 inches tall. Wicks stood 6'8". That is 6.5 inches of height that Wicks simply did not have, and no amount of hard work and practice was going to add those inches by tip-off. On paper, it looked like a mismatch that favored Gilmore completely. Most coaches facing a size gap that large would have looked for a way to hide their smaller player or double-team the bigger man every time he touched the ball, playing it safe rather than risking embarrassment on the sport's biggest stage. John Wooden had a different idea. He moved Wicks to the center position for that one game. The plan was simple to explain and hard to pull off. Instead of trying to match Gilmore's size, Wicks would use his speed and his jumping ability to make the size difference matter less. When the game started, Wicks did exactly that. He scored 17 points. He grabbed 18 rebounds. He blocked 5 of Gilmore's shots, which is a stunning number for one player to put on one of the tallest big men in the country. Gilmore, under that pressure, shot just 9 for 29 from the field. UCLA won the game 80-69. Wicks was named the Final Four's most outstanding player. He also shared the Helms Athletic Foundation's National Player of the Year honor with Pete Maravich of LSU, one of the most famous scorers in college basketball history. Think about what actually happened in that game. Wicks did not beat Gilmore by being bigger. He could not be bigger, no matter how hard he trained or how badly he wanted it. He beat him by being faster, by getting off the ground quicker, and by never letting the height difference decide the game before it started. 5 blocked shots on a 7'2" center in a national championship game is not something a smaller player manages by accident. That kind of performance on that kind of stage should be remembered forever, held up alongside any great underdog moment in basketball history. And UCLA was not finished with Wicks yet. For his senior season in 1970 to 1971, Wicks served as co-captain, now the clear leader of a program still expected to win every single time it stepped on the floor. UCLA went undefeated in conference play and won yet another national championship. Wicks averaged 21, 3 points, and 8 rebounds a game that year, his best full season by the numbers, capping his college career at its absolute peak. He was not only a force on the court. Off the court, he earned academic All-America honors and graduated with a sociology degree, a full quarter early. Proof that the same discipline that made him a great player also made him a serious student. Across his 3 varsity seasons, UCLA's record was an almost unbelievable 86 wins and 4 losses, with 3 straight national championships during his time on campus. Wicks was named National Player of the Year by the United States Basketball Writers Association and by the Sporting News. He was a consensus first-team All-American, the highest individual honor college basketball had to offer. Years later, UCLA inducted him into its Athletics Hall of Fame, and the College Basketball Hall of Fame followed, formal recognition of just how large his college career really was. In 1996, UCLA retired his number 35 at Pauley Pavilion, hanging it in the rafters for good, alongside the numbers of the other legends who wore that uniform. Put that resume side by side with how little he is talked about today, and the gap does not make sense. A player with 3 championships, a signature performance against a 7-footer, and a National Player of the Year trophy should not need reintroducing to anyone who follows the sport. But his college career, as complete as it was only the beginning of his story, not the whole of it. What happened next in the money and the draft process that followed shows just how highly the professional game valued him even before he played a single NBA minute. And it set the stage for one of the more unusual entrances any young star has ever made into the league. Before the 1971 NBA draft, the best center available, Artis Gilmore, chose to sign with the Kentucky Colonels of the rival American Basketball Association instead of entering the NBA. That decision left Wicks as the top talent still on the board for NBA teams. The clear best player left for any franchise hoping to build around a young star. The Cleveland Cavaliers won the very first pick through a coin toss against the Portland Trail Blazers. Then something unusual happened, something that shows just how badly Portland wanted Wicks for themselves. Portland paid Cleveland $250,000 in cash, simply so Cleveland would use that first pick on someone other than Wicks. Cleveland took that deal and selected guard Austin Carr from Notre Dame. That cleared the way for Portland to take Wicks with the second overall pick, exactly as they had planned all along. Wicks also had another option, and it mattered a great deal at the negotiating table. The Dallas Chaparrals of the ABA had drafted him too, and that competing offer gave him real leverage over Portland, since he genuinely could have signed elsewhere and started his professional career in a different league entirely. Portland signed him to a 5-year deal worth an estimated $1.5 million, a huge financial commitment for a young franchise that had never had a true star of its own. Before Wicks ever put on a Portland jersey, the team had already spent enormous money and enormous effort just to make sure he arrived. They had paid a rival team cash to clear his path, and then they had paid Wicks himself a record sum to keep him away from a second league entirely, spending twice just to build one roster spot around him. The expectations on him were sky high from day one, and every dollar Portland spent was a message that they believed he could turn their young franchise around. Those expectations did not turn into an easy beginning. Wicks made his NBA debut on October 15, 1971, and Portland lost 119-88 to the Seattle Supersonics. It was not the kind of debut anyone had promised him money for. Over his first 2 professional games, Wicks shot a combined 9 for 45, a rough start by any measure, the kind of stretch that makes fans and reporters start asking questions out loud. After the second game, a 127-94 loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, Bucks coach Larry Costello said publicly that Wicks had no outside shot. Coaches around the league sometimes say things like that to get inside a young player's head, and it would have been easy for a rookie to shrink from a comment like that. Wicks did not shrink. That comment did not sit quietly. In the very next meeting between the two teams, Wicks took 11 shots from more than 20 feet away, well beyond the range Costello had said he did not have. He made 8 of them and scored 30 points. He did not argue with Costello in the newspapers. He argued with him on the court, and he won that argument completely, in front of the same coach who had doubted him. Wicks earned his first NBA victory on October 23, 1971, scoring 34 points as Portland beat the Cincinnati Royals 104-100, finally putting a win in the record book after a bumpy opening week. From there, his rookie season became one of the most complete debut seasons the league had seen in years. He played in all 82 games, never missing a single one, which says something about his durability at the very start of his career. He averaged 24, 5 points, 11, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists a night, scoring, rebounding, and passing at that level. In every single game of an 82-game schedule as a rookie is an extremely rare combination, one that few first-year players before or after him have matched. It earned him the NBA Rookie of the Year award and a spot on the All-Star team, a nearly unheard-of double for a player in his very first season. Portland's investment in him looked justified before his first year was even finished, but greatness on a losing team is a strange kind of prize. It fills a stat sheet, but it does not always fill an arena, and it does not always make headlines outside the city where the games are played. Wicks now had to prove himself all over again, night after night, on a Trailblazers team that was still trying to find its footing in a league that had only just added them. That footing was hard to find, and part of the problem was Wicks himself. His rookie year also came with a media rivalry against fellow rookie Elmore Smith, who Buffalo had drafted 3rd overall. A rivalry that reporters loved to stir up whenever the two teams played. A Phoenix broadcaster named Hot Rod Hundley echoed a theory from Chicago coach Dick Motta The idea that expansion teams should build around a dominant center instead of a scoring forward like Wicks. Instead of letting that talk pass, Wicks answered it during a post-game program in Chicago. He said Portland's losses came from poor teamwork and too much individual play, not from his position or his draft slot. That was an honest opinion, and in some ways it was even a fair one. But it was also a public criticism of his own teammates, and it did not go over well in the locker room. It alienated several players, and it hit hardest with guard Jeff Petrie. One of the players Wicks had essentially pointed a finger at without naming him directly. Petrie and Wicks were both gifted scorers on the same team, and that created a natural competition for who would lead Portland in points each season. Every extra shot one of them took was, in some sense, a shot the other did not get. And that kind of quiet math can wear on a friendship fast. That competition kept tension high between them for years. Yet the story of Wicks and Petrie is not a simple story of two rivals who hated each other. In the summer of 1973, the team took a trip to Israel. While swimming in the Sea of Galilee, Wicks was hit with severe cramps in his arm and his leg. He could not swim anymore, and in open water that kind of moment turns dangerous within seconds. Some people nearby thought he was joking around. Petrie was not one of them. He swam out and pulled Wicks, who weighed 225 pounds, safely back in, at real risk to himself in open water. When reporters later asked Wicks about it, he downplayed what Petrie had done, saying other people had been swimming toward him too, and that someone else probably would have reached him regardless. That answer says something about Wicks. He was proud, and he was guarded, even toward a teammate who may have just saved his life. The research does not tell us why he answered that way, only that he did, and it fits a pattern of a man who did not easily hand credit to people he was also competing against. Through all of this tension, Wicks kept producing at an elite level, and that is the part of the story that gets lost the easiest when people only remember the arguments and not the box scores. In the 1972 to 1973 season, he led the entire NBA in triple-doubles, with 4, a stat line that shows just how many different ways he could impact a game beyond simply scoring. He received votes for Most Valuable Player in 3 different seasons, finishing 17th in the voting in 1971 to 1972, 16th in 1972 to 1973, and 12th in 1974 to 1975, moving up the list as his game kept developing. On February 26, 1975, in an overtime win over the Los Angeles Lakers, Wicks grabbed 27 rebounds in a single game with Elmore Smith, his old rookie rival, as the Lakers' leading rebounder on the other side of the court that night. That 27-rebound game set a Portland franchise record, and it stood for decades, through countless Trailblazers rosters and eras, before Enes Kanter Freedom finally passed it. Across his early years in the league, Wicks made 4 consecutive All-Star teams. His rookie award was clearly not a one-time flash. It was the start of a genuinely dominant stretch that any player from that era would have been proud to call their own. In 1974, Portland drafted center Bill Walton with the first overall pick, and Wicks became close friends with him, bonding with the young center over the years they now shared inside a struggling franchise. That friendship pulled Wicks even further from Petrie, who reportedly disliked Walton's countercultural style, and the locker room split into groups that did not always trust each other. With the roster relationships fraying, Portland traded Petrie to the Atlanta Hawks in the summer of 1976, beginning a larger reshaping of the team that would eventually leave Wicks without a place either. Wicks had been one of the most productive forwards in basketball for 5 straight seasons, averaging numbers that plenty of stars would envy, but Portland was still searching for the right combination of players around him, and his own contract situation was about to become a problem too, one that would finally end his time in the city where his professional career began. By the end of the 1975 to 1976 season, Wicks had completed his original 5-year contract and entered an option year. Contract disputes followed quickly, and Portland's front office began viewing him as a disruptive presence rather than the franchise cornerstone they had once paid so much to bring in. When the team tried to trade him to the New Orleans Jazz, Wicks blocked the move. His wife did not like the city, and he did not want to join another struggling team, even one that featured a talent like Pete Maravich. He had already spent 5 seasons losing more than he won, and he was not eager to sign up for more of the same somewhere new. Boston's general manager, the legendary Red Auerbach, purchased Wicks' contract rights for cash on October 12, 1976. Auerbach believed that Wicks' championship pedigree under John Wooden meant he understood what it took to win, and that he would fit naturally into the Celtics' winning culture, a culture built on titles and discipline going back decades. One that Auerbach himself had spent a career constructing. Instead, Wicks arrived in a Boston locker room that was already falling apart before he ever unpacked a bag. The team had recently split with beloved forward Paul Silas, and star center Dave Cowens was so upset by that decision that he took a multi-month break from the team starting in November of 1976, leaving a massive hole in Boston's leadership right as a new player was trying to find his footing. Forward John Havlicek was recovering from an appendectomy. Guard JoJo White was dealing with foot injuries. In other words, Wicks did not walk into a stable championship roster looking for one more piece. He walked into a team already missing several of its most important players. Into that unstable mix walked Wicks, who briefly held out during training camp and then arrived out of shape, which did not help him make a strong first impression on a coaching staff already under pressure. He struggled to adjust to Boston's fast-paced transition style of play, so different from the deliberate, structured basketball he had grown up playing under Wooden, and he quickly clashed with head coach Tommy Heinsohn. During a practice drill known as the Game of 21, Wicks kept shooting from in front of the foul line instead of following the drill's rules, which led to a heated argument with guard Charlie Scott in front of the rest of the team. Wicks did have bright moments in Boston, moments that remind you the talent had not disappeared. In one win over his old team, Portland, he scored 13 points in the second half and helped end a 5-game Portland winning streak. But Heinsohn later said publicly that Wicks was thinking too much and passing up open shots. Wicks rejected that criticism just as publicly, and he pointed instead to his own conditioning as the real issue holding him back, a small hint of the physical problem that was quietly growing underneath all of this conflict. Boston finished the 1976 to 1977 season with a 44-38 record, and Philadelphia eliminated them in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Then came the twist that Wicks could not escape. The single moment that probably did more to shape his public reputation than anything else in his career. Portland, the team that had just moved on from him, won the 1977 NBA championship, the very first championship in franchise history. Jack Ramsey was in his first year as Portland's head coach, and the front court of Bill Walton and Maurice Lucas led the way, with Lucas playing the exact power forward role Wicks used to hold on those Portland teams. It is important to be fair here. The research does not support the idea that Wicks alone kept Portland from winning before 1977. Championships depend on many players, coaches, and even a healthy dose of good fortune along the way. But the timing of that championship, arriving right after his departure, turned public opinion against him even harder, giving fans and reporters a simple story to tell about why the team suddenly succeeded once he was gone. Boston's media turned on him too. And once a city's press decides a player is the problem, that story tends to follow him everywhere he goes. Boston Globe writer Bob Ryan called him an extremely disruptive influence, one of the most disruptive to ever set foot in Boston Garden. Columnist Ray Fitzgerald described Wicks as a punching bag for both the media and the fans, someone who absorbed blame for a team that was struggling for reasons well beyond any single player. In December of 1978, that pressure boiled over into something serious. Wicks threatened Bob Ryan in the Celtics locker room, shouting that there would be a murder in the room, and teammates had to physically restrain him from attacking the reporter. That is a serious moment, and it deserves to be told plainly, without extra drama added to it. It shows a man under enormous strain, both from the media around him and, as the record later suggested, from pain inside his own body that nobody was talking about yet. Tommy Heinsohn had already been dismissed as coach in January of 1978, a sign of just how unsettled the entire Boston operation had become. After that season, Boston traded Wicks to the San Diego Clippers, receiving Nate Archibald, known as Tiny, along with a draft asset that would eventually help bring Danny Ainge to the Celtics. His time in Boston, by nearly every account in the research, was the low point of his public reputation, and it is the part of his story that most casual fans remember, if they remember him at all, even though it came near the very end of a career that had started with so much promise. For years, the story people told about Wicks' fading numbers was a story about attitude. They said he stopped caring. They said he had a bad temper and a worse work ethic, and that his decline was proof he had never really grown up. But there is another explanation. One grounded in his own body rather than his character, and it deserves far more attention than it usually gets. His scoring average went down every single season after his rookie year, and that decline lined up closely with the physical toll of how he was used, not with any sudden change in effort or attitude. During his 5 seasons in Portland, Wicks played 15,445 minutes, an enormous workload for any player, let alone one who was constantly being asked to bang inside against bigger men. He was the team's main option for low-post scoring and rebounding, and that often meant guarding centers much bigger than him, absorbing heavy contact possession after possession, year after year, without much rest. By the time he reached Boston in 1976, he had severe cartilage loss in his knees, the kind of damage that builds up slowly and then all at once. He was receiving regular painkiller injections in both knees, timed around games and even around practices, just to keep functioning at a level anywhere close to what fans expected from him. This matters because of how Wicks actually played the game. His entire style depended on jumping, on quick side-to-side movement, and on raw speed, the very things that painkillers cannot restore once real cartilage is gone. He never developed a heavy set of post moves or a dependable outside shot to fall back on, tools that other players lean on once their legs start to go. When his legs and his knees began to fail him, he did not have another gear to shift into. The player who once rose above Artis Gilmore's outstretched arms was now fighting just to keep up with players he used to dominate. His 3 seasons with the San Diego Clippers tell that story in simple numbers. His scoring average dropped from 8 points a game, to 7, 1, and then to 6. 7, a steady slide that matches a body breaking down more than a mind giving up. He spent the 1981 to 1982 season playing in Italy for a team called Rier Venezia Mestre, a long way from Pauley Pavilion and Boston Garden, before he finally retired from basketball for good. Closing out a playing career that had carried him from a Los Angeles high school gym all the way across an ocean, life after the NBA brought its own struggles, separate from anything that happened on a basketball court. Wicks had been married from 1973 to 1979, and he raised a daughter, Siobhan Epps. He returned to UCLA as an assistant coach, working under his former Bruins teammate Walt Hazzard, and he coached there from 1984 through 1988, staying connected to the program that had shaped his entire career. Coaching gave him a way back into the game, even after his playing days were long over, and it kept him close to the campus where his number would eventually hang in the rafters. Then, on May 5, 1989, everything nearly ended in an instant, in a way that had nothing to do with basketball at all. In Mira Mesa, San Diego, a loaded cement truck ran a red light and struck the driver's side of his car. Wicks suffered a ruptured spleen. He needed emergency surgery at Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla, along with treatment for facial cuts and head trauma. It was a serious, life-threatening crash, the kind that changes how a person thinks about the years still ahead of them. A ruptured spleen and head trauma are the sort of injuries that can end a life in an instant, and only fast surgery and careful treatment kept that from happening here. He survived, and he recovered, which is its own kind of quiet victory that never made a highlight reel. After that recovery, Wicks moved into real estate, managing properties in Atlanta, Florida, and Los Angeles, building a second career that had nothing to do with scoreboards or standings. It was steady, private work, far removed from arenas full of fans and reporters waiting for a quote. He settled into a quiet life, largely away from cameras and headlines, which only made it easier for the basketball world to stop thinking about him at all. A player does not need to do anything wrong to be forgotten. Sometimes all it takes is stepping out of the spotlight and staying out of it for long enough. So where does that leave the case for Sidney Wicks? Start at the beginning. He was a dominant force in high school and in junior college, before he ever set foot on UCLA's campus, showing flashes of greatness as early as age 14. He became a central figure in one of the greatest dynasties college basketball has ever seen, playing alongside and then stepping out of the shadow of one of the sport's all-time greats. On the sport's biggest stage, he stood up to a 7'2" center and won that fight with speed and heart instead of size, in a performance that still holds up as one of the boldest coaching decisions and player responses in championship history. He left UCLA as a National Player of the Year, with 3 championship rings and a college resume that very few players in the sport's history can match. An NBA franchise valued him enough to pay real money just to guarantee his arrival, and his rookie season proved that investment was not a mistake. 4 straight All-Star selections tell you his rookie year was not a lucky accident. It was the start of real, sustained greatness. Greatness that showed up on the stat sheet season after season. even when the team around him could not match it. What buried that greatness was not a lack of talent. It was a losing team that could not support him, tension that grew out of a young man's pride and honesty, a move to Boston that dropped him into chaos that was not his making, and a body that gave out from years of punishment that nobody fully understood at the time, in an era when sports medicine simply had not caught up to what players like Wicks were being asked to endure. Portland's championship, arriving right after he left, made the criticism of him louder and harder to shake, even though the full picture was always more complicated than that one storyline. Knee damage, not character, explains most of his decline, and that changes how his whole career should be read, turning a story of a player who supposedly gave up into a story of a player who kept playing through real physical pain for far longer than most people ever knew. Sidney Wicks was a bridge between two great eras at UCLA, connecting the Alcindor years to the years that followed. He gave a struggling young franchise in Portland its first true individual star, someone fans could point to during years when wins were hard to come by. His career held triumph, conflict, physical pain, and quiet resilience all at once, often within the same season and sometimes within the same game. It was complicated, but it was also far greater than his current level of fame suggests. They forgot him. But look at what he actually did, from a high school gym in Los Angeles to a championship night against a giant, from a rookie season for the ages to a body that broke down before its time. Forgetting a story like that says more about how basketball remembers its heroes than it says about Sidney Wicks himself. His name deserves to be spoken again, not as a footnote, but as one of the genuine forces of his basketball generation.